evening, gentlemen and ladies, of course. This is night two of Debate Kingdom, right here on TMG, the heart of debate. We have stepped into night two of Debate Kingdom, like I said, with the GameZone Championship. There's an open title on the line, and we've got two hella competitors swinging for it. We've got the man, the myth, the legend himself, everybody's, let's say 300,000th favorite dad, Papa West. Papa, what's up, buddy?
Wow, I've really fallen off the rankings. I'm doing okay. It's weird to be in a bright area. This is day two. Day one, I of course took on Sean in the Sports for All Championship. I unfortunately came up that short. I was unable to do it. So I was talking with everyone's favorite smasher, Kevin Smets, saying, "Hey, when you get a bad loss like that, how do you bounce back?" And he gave me the keys to the dungeon. He's like, hang in there, stay there for however long you need to, get refocused. And I've been there for going on 24 hours now. So I'm back, sunlight. Let's do this.
Alrighty. Papa West hanging out in dungeons. That is a topic for another Saturday show. But we'll keep that for another conversation. Let's jump over to his competitor and the possible champ of the Game Zone, Mr. Comic Book Lad himself. Grant, what's up, brother?
Hey, not much. I'm happy to be here, and yeah, Jacob knows his stuff. He's judged, I think, two of the matches that I played in this division, so I think he knows where I lie. And yeah, I mean, as long as I don't get beaten 3-0, I think I can be pretty happy with it. You know, I've got about as much chance of winning the argument as I do staying up for another 2 hours. So who knows how it's going to go? But I'm happy and I'm excited, and I hope I don't embarrass myself.
Don't we all know those child problems? I know I do. I know our 200 favorite father to my right does too. But I'm not alone. I'm not a judge tonight. I am just your host with the most. Like I said, I am Matty G. Down below me is our first judge, Richard. Richard, what's up, dude?
Everything is good. I'm excited these two competitors face off. It looks like they got the Dreamcast situation switch things up, and hope they'll both be on their game, boy.
Whoa, lots of game puns. I love it. Usually I
understood that reference.
Yeah, exactly. Like Captain America says, I understood that reference. Most of the time I drop the puns around here, but that's okay. Speaking of puns, this man may have a pun in his name. Bill, what's happening, brother?
Not much. How's everybody doing? This should be good. I've never actually been on the show before, so this is about football or something, right?
Exactly. Go sports team.
All right. Yes. Sports go sports.
Just like a freshly squeezed thumbs up for everyone. If you don't know what that means, check out my Thursday night Suplex City chats and we'll discuss it. This man, everybody should know. If you don't, maybe he'll introduce himself. What's up, Rubear?
What's going on, y'all? It's Amaru here. I was just watching Aaron Gordon get robbed in the slam dunk contest, more sports, and got the call to come judge. I was like, okay, let's do it. So I'm ready.
Amaru, I haven't watched it yet.
I
do that to me.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's better than it's Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine part 2.
Let's plug in here. We got a little bit of rules for you. Basically, this is a championship match. We have 5 prepped questions. It's a first to 3. We got a 90-second opening, a 5-minute debate, and a 60-second closing. If at any time the competitors think that maybe I need to hit my points a little harder at the end or the beginning, they can use what I call the extra life. What that means is I'll add a 1-minute extension to either their opening or their closing. Sounds pretty self-explanatory. But in video games, if something gets a little out of hand, you got to press the pause button. And what that means is if the competitors start yelling at each other and the judges can't hear them, I'm going to press the pause button, and that means they're going to stop. I will wait until everybody is quiet, and I will have a 10-second run off the clock, and we'll continue. If that takes us to time, that takes us to time. Guys, anybody have any questions, or shall we get it on, as they say? All right, so we are freshly squeezed, I guess. Oh, wait, that's the wrong thing. All right, guys. Round one comes in the realm of classics. And the question I proposed is, what classic text-based game was the most difficult to complete? And this was a strength of Jacob's. So, Grant, you're going to start first. 90 seconds when you start talking.
When I think of text-based games, I think of games where you can obviously type in text and there's a steady flow to story. Very simple commands, sort of things, 3 or 4 words, sort of things. Like if you're going to go hunting, you add a couple of words here, shoot, bam, pow, that sort of stuff. The game that I pick, you needed to basically learn essentially a new language, a new slang, just for the basic switch. They don't tell you, and that's The Witness. This is the 1983 game. There's a huge series. Sherlock Holmes was a part of it. They bring back some characters from previous iterations of the game. But The Witness, the 1983 version, is for me the hardest because it doesn't explain a lot of what you can do. It disguises itself. It's the wolf in sheep's clothing when it comes to text-based games, because you think you know what you're going on, and then they'll throw this word at you and you'll have no idea what that means. And yeah, I'll concede the rest of my time.
Okay, then. Coming out with a game that doesn't tell you what you need to know. Jacob, what text-based game is the most difficult? Again, 90 seconds when you start talking.
All right. So when it comes to a game being difficult, there's usually about 3 reasons why the game's difficult. The first one is just because the AI is super difficult. You look at Dark Souls. It's a tough game. The second reason is because it's broken, like some of the Ninja Turtle games. They're broken. You really can't finish them unless you're on top of your game. And then the third reason why a video game would be difficult is because of a lot of randomly generated events. You look at Pokemon. You walk through the grass, 2 seconds, the na thing goes, and you have to fight a new Pokemon. You beat the Pokemon, you go out, 2 steps again. Just makes it difficult. The game that I picked for the hardest text-based game is a game we have all played in some iteration. Most of us played it at school. I personally spent the $10 to buy the game as an adult because it had that of an effect on me. I picked 1974's The Oregon Trail. The reason it fits this is because of randomly generated events. And I, too, will go deep on this in the 5 minutes.
All right. So then, gentlemen, let me get the clock set up. 5 minutes when somebody starts talking.
So, Grant, I just want to say something real quick. You say it's hard to understand because of all the lingo and you don't understand what's going on. Fun fact, video games would have a little instruction guide that came with them. And 9 times out of 10, they gave you like brief rundown story, how to play the game. That's exactly what happened with The Witness. So the fact that you didn't understand it, first off, it's because you can't read, because they explained it all during the game, but also because they did give you a little quick guide whenever you purchase the game to kind of walk you through all of that. With the Oregon Trail, again, randomly generated events that make the game impossible. Every round, there's about 8 to 12 rounds from getting from Independence, Missouri to Oregon. It starts off saying where you are, how much supplies you have. Second thing in the round is it gives you the option if you can go hunting, or if you're at a fort, you can go to the fort, go shopping. And then the third thing is it randomly generates 2 either events or weather conditions. Events could be anything like your wagon breaking, lose supplies, get raided by raiders or Native Americans, or what do they say? Hostile riders is what they said in the game, to avoid any racism or scrutiny or anything like that. And then with the weather, it was either sunny, it was either rainy, snow,
Well, I mean,
fog.
you're talking about randomly generated things, which means there's a randomness to it. So equally as much as you're talking about something bad happening to you, you could play the game for hours and have one or two small encounters. That's equally as possible as having something equally as hard. I'm talking about a game whose fundamental, even if you get the best possible run, it still throws in lingo. And you're talking about that you get a book with it. That was the point of it. You didn't get the book with it. I didn't get the book when I got the game. I've looked on, and that was the number one complaint that people were talking about. They didn't get certain things when they're talking about different characters, and they're talking about different people. When they call someone like obviously like a dame and a dog that's set in 1930s 30s lingo, but they use certain things like a dog soup. They don't explain what a dog soup is in terms of it. It ends up being a cup of water, which you don't find out because you've got to type it in exactly. All the words you've got to type in are longer. Your biggest problem is if you misspell the word like bam or fucking hit or something, then it goes wrong. Your whole point is that it's randomly generated. Being randomly generated means you have equally as much chance of it going bad as you do good. So, but you're only focusing, you're saying, well, it's going to be hard. Well, if it's randomly generated, it's equally as good. Otherwise, if it's set in stone, they had this thing. This game was voted by Byte Magazine as the hardest game. So I mean, and this comes out past your game. So otherwise, they would have included that in the whole thing. So randomly generated does not equal hard. It just means that maybe the time that you played, you had a bad run, but the next time someone played or someone else played, had an easier run.
Yes, and sometimes randomly generated, it gives you the short end of the stick, and sometimes it gives you a good end of the stick. But also, you're going through 12 different random encounters. The chances of getting 12 good encounters is 0. You're going to get hard stuff. And I didn't even tell you the best parts. Randomly in the rounds, it's not even a set, at this round it happens, at this round it happens, at this round it happens. Randomly, you can be in the middle of traveling. Boom, you get hit with the disease. We've all had that. You died of dysentery with no chance of healing yourself. No supplies can fix it. As soon as you get dysentery, you're dead. You lose the game. You have to start all over. Most diseases are like that.
That's the point. It's random. You're basing your whole argument on the fact that it's random. If there was a set thing where it's like, all right, you get dysentery at this point, and then you've got X amount here, and it's so close, you have to be perfectly precise to get to the thing to save yourself. That makes it a hard game. That's exactly what my game has to offer. You have to do things with time. You're talking about just random events that happen. Therefore, random equals hard. Random doesn't equal hard. Random equals random.
But at least you have control in your game. If you've played it through, you can play it all the way through, no problem. Oregon Trail, it's randomly generated. The reason it's hard is because you have no control. You could play the game 200 times, know exactly the statistics, everything, and you get dysentery the second round. You have no control. The issue with The Witness, it's not Infocom's hardest game. I don't know where you got that quote that it was voted hardest game, because it actually won 1984's Best Computer Adventure.
That's exactly right, and that was the irony, that it also won best and also hardest. That's the beauty of the game. It's hard, but it's still good.
Time. All right, gentlemen. This is a heated debate. I'm gonna make a little comment here. I'm glad I'm not judging. Grant, you got a minute on the clock when you start talking.
You're talking about in your game that you've got multiple locations. My game has 28, so it has multiple locations. You have to type in words in a very specific sort of thing. Your biggest problem, and the biggest problem with your game, is when you go hunting and you misspell one or two words like bam or shoot, like small ones. I've got to do bigger sentences when they're talking about go and see the dame. You don't see the singer. You don't say you got to go talk to the lady singer. You got to call her a canary, which they don't explain to you early on because it's in a different lingo. You're focusing on random, and then as I said, I'll keep saying it again. Random doesn't equal hard. It just means that there's more opportunity for it to be as easy as it is hard. My game is hard from start the finish. That's why it's hard. Your game might have playability or replayability, but replayability doesn't mean it's hard. All it means is you can replay it again, because random doesn't equal hard.
Okay,
Done.
with 4 seconds left, I'm guessing he's conceding the last few seconds. Papa West, this is your strength. Close it out for us. 1 minute when you start talking.
Going to the question is, what is the most difficult game to compete? With the Witness, you have control. You have a partner who can help you with all the lingo. You have the guide. I don't know why you didn't get a guide. You probably bought it secondhand, because when you bought it brand new, it came with a guide. Oregon Trail, it's randomly generated. You have no control. That's why it's almost impossible to beat. Another thing with the Witness, Infocom, the game that created it, this was like their 4th game. They've made great games. They made harder games, buggier games, Deadline, the Zork series. This was actually a well put together game. And I have a fun quote from Dan Gutman of Compute Magazines talking about 1984's Archie Award winner for the best computer adventure. The Witness is the latest in Infocom's masterful series, and it may be one of the best. It does a great job of avoiding Deadline's tendency to bog down. If you like intricate puzzles, you will love The Witness. It was not that hard.
Time. All right, ladies and
That's
gentlemen.
hilarious. I actually had, and I had in brackets, I said Jacob's going to say this quote. You'll see, actually.
How did you know?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was both of our competitors swinging for the fences. Again, like I said, I'm glad I'm not judging, but Richard sure is. Richard, who gets your point and why?
I mean, this was definitely a good first round. One person argued that it was hard for their game because they had no control, whereas you had one person argue that their game is the hardest because they had no idea what to do. They didn't explain the game within the game and no booklet. I'm going to give my point to Jacob because the main fact Jacob brought up the point where, like, yeah, it is hard and randomness. You could beat the game easily. You couldn't beat the game hard, but the fact is you had no control over the game. It was based on statistics, whereas Grant, even though he said you didn't understand what to do, you had more control of the game than having no control. So my point's going to Jacob.
All right, so we got a 1 point towards Jacob. Bill, what are you thinking?
So listening to both of them, I am leaning towards Grant. And the only reason why is, and I thought it was a solid point, kept bringing up, random doesn't mean hard. Random just means random. And I've played games where it's random chance, where that doesn't mean the game is hard. It just means things happen randomly. And having played Oregon Trail, it is kind of annoying, but I don't think it's that hard a game. Now, if I had to learn a whole new lingo and I had to, like, basically teach myself how to do something, that would be really hard to do. And the fact that, so that's mainly the reason why I went with Grant.
All right, so we are 1-1. I guess we know what this means. Ruru, who gets this round and why?
Oh, I 2 matches and I'm in this situation again. This one was difficult. This one was very difficult because I really liked Grant's argument that random equals random compared to Jacob's that control over not control. So it kind of came down to the closing for me. And I think that the combination of the fact, Grant, I'm sorry, his quote did it for me. When he said you put the puzzle pieces together and you figure it out, that kind of just got me through the head. If I played your game, Witness, the 200th time and knew the lingo and put the puzzle pieces together, it's no longer hard. But if I played Jacob's, the Oregon Trail, the 200th time, and I'm going through it and I'm hit with dysentery, that makes it hard. So I think Jacob got you right at the end there. So here's my point to Jacob.
All right, so Jacob draws
you
first.
misspoke word intricate in there.
All right, so Jacob draws first blood. but that's okay, ladies and gentlemen. We still have 4 more questions to go. Maybe this will be Jacob's round, or this will be Grant's round. This is a strength of Grant's. So, Jacob, you're going to go first and tell me what's the most influential RTS game of the 90s? Again, you've got 90 seconds when you start talking.
All right, so the most influential real-time strategy game. I love this because most time the questions are, what's the best? What's the most iconic? And some people go, well, it's the best because it's the first, and that's the only reason why. But you can't really go that argument. And influential, you really can. It's pretty much solidified on it's the first, so it influenced so much more. And that's exactly what I did with this pick. This game has spawned 13 sequels just from the developer. Really brought in real-time strategy to most homes. This is one of the first real-time strategy games to come out that really put it on the map. It was even the first major game in the 4X genre. The 4X is explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate. So not only did it create a series of games, it created a whole genre. And so it's obviously the most influential. I'm talking about 1991, Sid Meier's Civilization.
All right. So with a pause, I guess he's done. Grant, this is your strength. Lay it on us, buddy.
We're talking influential. So you're talking a game that expands beyond itself, something that becomes bigger within the world and bigger within the culture and bigger within everything. The game that I picked embodies that. I'm talking about Warcraft. We're going back to the very simplest version of Warcraft. Three races versus each other. Real-time strategy in actual real-time, not turn-based, like some other games. So there's a lot more at stake and a lot more quick thinking with it. I'll get into my argument in a little bit, but let's just say that it's influential because it's beyond its own initial scope.
All right. Leaving quite a bit of chunk on the clock, but you know what? I like that because that means we can get into the 5-minute debate. Gentlemen, you know what to do.
I mean, you're saying it was the first one to do the 4x4. It wasn't the first one. It was one of the ones that did it really well, but it wasn't the first one. So you can't even take credit for that being influenced. And even the game Civilization, it wasn't. It was actually based off a board game. Oh wait, no, it wasn't, because the original one was based off the one from the 80s was based off the board game, and then that one is what Civilization is based off the actual game, just improving it. Incumbula is the one that was originally based off it. So it's not even your argument that its influence has gone past and it developed this whole strategy and everything. No, it honed in on certain things that made things better, but it didn't create it. It didn't expand anything past it. By the time that it came out, other games were also employing it and much better and doing. My game is so much more influential because it doesn't just go beyond its own basis of Civilization. It's got 13 or something games. My game is responsible for billions and billions of dollars worth of revenue raised. I know your games can't say that.
I mean, I didn't look up to see the sales. But what did your game create though? Because your game took a hot game type, the real-time strategy, took a really hot commodity, fantasy, and put them together. So it took two things, put it together, but it wasn't even the first time that we've taken fantasy and video games and put them together. So while yes, yours, made a couple video games, books, a crappy movie, but it's still a movie. It wasn't created. It stole all of its ideas.
You said the word created. I was debugging yours. I didn't say mine created. I'm saying mine influenced. That's what the question. If you said created, I said mine didn't create. Mine influenced. What did it do? What did it influence? And how big did it go? I don't know. Maybe a little thing called a World of Warcraft. Have you heard of it? That's all expanding from that. One of the biggest games. Oh wait, no, it's not, because another game that they did, Warcraft 3, introduced map editing. all based from this game. It influenced the ability to create your own maps. What came from that? A little map called Defense of the Ancients, Dota, that got now turned into League of Legends, which is the biggest game in the world. Warcraft expanded itself from just a small little game to a big game, to an empire, to a completely new genre, to even, as you stated, a movie, whether it's a good movie or a bad movie. It went from where it was to where it is now, to influencing some of the biggest, most influential games and putting esports on the map. It gave the money for Blizzard to be able to develop and expand everything else. From that little seed of Warcraft, it influenced everything else past that. From Defense of the Ancients 2, League of Legends, which is the biggest game in the world at the moment. It's bigger than Fortnite. It has a bigger prize pool. It has more people watching it than Major League Baseball. That wouldn't be possible without Warcraft.
But how did Warcraft influence Dota? Two different game styles, two very, very different games. Oh, you're saying because Dota pulls in the influence of fantasy stuff? There's so much in the realm of fantasy. You look at the Lord of the Rings. They have orcs, they have elves, they have humans, which Warcraft has. Which came first? Lord of the Rings came before Warcraft. You can't say, oh, because Dota's a video game, it has fantasy elements. This is a fantasy game that came first.
Dota was made from the map editor within Warcraft. It's a Warcraft map that got transformed into its own individual game. If you played the game and you knew about the history, you would know that. That's the reason why it's the most influential one, because it took something small and added a map editor to it, which gave the consumer a huge ability to be able to create everything. From that one thing, it created Defense of the Ancients, which turned to Defense of the Ancients 2, League of Legends, which copies the exact same thing. And the guys that write state without Warcraft and without the engine, they would not have been able to do anything, because they use different characters. Yes, the ideas of orc and everything have been around that. I never claimed that. You're the one that's you're trying to throw a freaking straw man at me. I never claimed that they created orcs or anything. I said they influenced the game within these characters and everything. Influenced them. All the characters that are in Dota are a part of Warcraft lore. They're all part of. And I'm not even going to mention the book. The books are huge. They're the number one. They were the number one sellers at one stage. So, I mean, if you want to talk about influence, past what Sid Meier's little civilization thing did.
And we run out the clock, and we call time. Alrighty, Jacob. 60 seconds. Don't forget, you've got your extra life if you need it. 1 minute when you start talking.
Again, most influential. You can say that Dota was created because of Warcraft. If Warcraft didn't exist, Dota would have still happened. League of Legends would have still happened. They just took a formula from the ability to edit maps through that. They still would have done it without it. Civilization spawned 13 sequels, spawned so many knockoffs too. How many games have you played where you build a base, you expand that base, you go attack other people? Every single mobile game that's out there has that benefits where you build a base, you get all these resources in, you go attack people, all because of Civilization. You know, you can have your crappy movie all you want. Civilization doesn't have a movie because it's called Real Life. But again, you can't just look at Civilization by itself. It has influenced so many games. Not just video games, not just board games, mobile games, all that.
All right, Grant. 60 seconds. Close out this round, buddy.
All right, I hate to be the hammer that hits nail on the head. You didn't create it. Game didn't create the 4x thing. It didn't. There was other games. It was just good at doing it. So you're basically saying it created that genre that expanded. No, it was just a part of that expansion. Warcraft created this little seed that turned into a bigger seed that's developed into the biggest games in the world. You can say what you like about Civilization building and creating that, and it's real life. Yeah, you're only saying they don't have a movie because it's real life, because no one wants to see it. No one knows all the different things about that. But you ask people about World of Warcraft or Dota or League of Legends, and people know what you're talking about. Influence has gone so far that it's gone past the games, to the books, to the movies. Yours has stayed in the exact same thing, and all it's basically doing is doing the same thing, but slightly changing the graphics each time and adding one or two little features in it. Nothing more, nothing less. It didn't create it; it just rode the wave that was already there behind it.
And stop closing it out. All righty. These guys came to play. Bill, who gets your point and why?
Now, I say this begrudgingly, as somebody that hates World of Warcraft and is also currently playing Civ 6 on his Switch. But if I had to look at this objectively, I got to give the point to Grant, only because making the crazy argument of like what esports has become and things like that, like the reach is far more influential with Warcraft than it is with Civilization. That's why I'm giving it to Grant. So, and that breaks my heart to do that. So,
all right, so we are crushing hearts and breaking dreams here on the Game Zone. Amaru, what you got, buddy?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree, Jacob. I think you let Grant take that 5 minutes and just run with it, and he never gave it back. It was kind of took that one for me, hands down. Unfortunately, sorry, Jake, but Grant, that is definitely your point.
All right, so we got a tied game here. Richard, just out of curiosity, who would have gotten your point?
I would have also given it to Grant. I felt like Jacob was playing defensive the whole time. And then I could see him starting to develop at that point. I think it was a little too late. All I heard from Jacob's side was it expanded 13 sequels, which, is impressive, but Grant explained how it, went to World of Warcraft. It influenced a movie, helped with Dota, World of Warcraft 3. He brought up more the reasons why Warcraft was more influential than Jacob did with Civilizations.
Right on. So, clean sweep. That's okay, guys. We got 3 more questions to go, but this is a great moment in sports if we were in movie fights, but we're not. So question number 3 comes in the realm of modern classics, and it is, what is the most underrated first-person shooter? Grant, you got a minute and a half when you start talking. Let's hear it.
All right, when you talk about underrated, you talk about things that people either didn't initially appreciate but appreciate later, weren't aware of was going on there, or was overshadowed by either things in its past or something future coming up. This is exactly the line where all 3 of these sort of things meet for Call of Juarez Gunslinger, which is the 4th installment in the Call of Juarez series. It's a game that took a lot of pointers from the fans, the things that they liked, things that they didn't like, and changed their game back to getting something that the fans themselves wanted. Unfortunately, due to some behind the scenes things and some future upcoming games, it tended to became a little bit overshadowed and overlooked. So when its release came out, it didn't hit the level of critical response initially that it was going for. But later on, once people got to play it, it was a bit too late. But the game was doing it sold good in a later setting, and that's the reason why I picked the game.
Alrighty. With 19 seconds left on the clock, Jacob, lay it on us.
So yes, with being underrated, it's definitely overlooked. The game that I picked came from a very, very reputable name that spawned one of the better movie franchises out there, one of the best movie universes, and that is Star Wars. The game that I picked is Star Wars Republic Commando. Again, it was leaning on the name of Star Wars. Before it even came out, they were planning on a sequel. The game didn't sell. Reviews instantly came out. Very mixed, a lot bad. Biggest thing was, when you think of Star Wars, you think of Jedi. Republic Commando decided to do something different. They did first-person shooter. You're a clone commander, and as soon as the word got out, hey, you're not going to be a Jedi. A lot of people didn't like it, which is horrible because the game is fantastic. My choice: Star Wars Republic Commando.
Alrighty then. With 30 seconds left on the clock, he is conceding. Let me get the next clock set up. 5 minutes when somebody starts talking.
So yeah, Grant, you didn't pick the right Call to Juarez game. It's the fourth of 4 games, and the first 2 were fantastic. The original Call of Juarez, again, a very underrated game that a lot of people didn't play because it's new franchise Call of Juarez. No one knew what that was. But then you start having people play, people talking about it. The second comes out 3 years later, Bound in Blood, another fantastic game. A lot of people had to get it. And then the Cartel came out, which was not that good. But then Gunslinger came out, and everyone's like, hey, they're listening to us. They changed it. They took everything bad in the Cartel and threw it out, took everything good in the original and Bound in Blood, put it in, and they made Gunslinger. It's fantastic. You picked the wrong Gunslinger or Call of Juarez game. I'm sorry, Grant.
The question is about which is the worst, which is underrated. And that's why I picked that one. The reason why it was underrated, and what I was basically saying, it was the amalgamation of people. They listen to the fans. The fans got what they want. But the biggest problem was there was the big problem with Nintendo and bloody Ubisoft and all that. They stopped their complete publishing for it. So coming up to the game, it was supposed to be come out in 6 months. There was no publicity. There was nothing for it. And I don't know where you're saying I should have picked the third one because it was worse. We're not talking about the worst game. I don't know. If we're talking about the worst game,
First one.
The first one was new in the franchise. It was developing. It's a decent enough game, but it's not the most underrated. It's freaking loved. People love it. It's a modern day retro.
When it first came out, though, everyone's like, Call of Juarez, I don't know what this is. I'm not going to spend $50, $60 on it because that's one bad thing about video games. They are super expensive. So a lot of these indie developers aren't able to get a game out on every device or every console. They have to throw it to Steam where it's a little bit cheaper to let people get it for cheaper, play it, and then it becomes a huge success. Gunslinger was the fourth one. The Call of Juarez name was out there. And most people have played one of the games. They knew, hey, Gunslinger's coming out. This is going to be a game that I have to get. Star Wars Republic Commando is freaking Star Wars. When you hear that, you're immediately just seeing the dollar bills roll. And with Republic Commando, it didn't happen because you weren't a Jedi. No, that game is fantastic.
You're saying it's fantastic. I'm saying it's not. Give a little bit more substance to why it's fantastic, because I can tell you why it's bad. You take this huge sort of lore and then you bottle it down and you put it down to this wonderful thing. The mechanics of the mechanics of the game for a first person shooter where people are moving around are sluggish. The recall time and everything, it's a slow game, and that was the biggest issue that people had with it. And the reason why the sequel didn't come out was because it was a bad game. Underrated does not mean that if a game is bad doesn't mean it's underrated. A bad game is a bad game. My game wasn't bad. It just a lot of people didn't know about it. A lot of stuff was coming out. There was a huge push initially, and then it dropped off. Your game sold more than mine. So you're saying that it sold more, so therefore more people knew, so therefore it's more underrated. That's a complete fallacy.
First off, I don't know where you're getting this. The controls were bad. I mean, it was 2005. They weren't the best thing out there, but they were definitely nowhere near the worst. It had a great story, great characters. You look at RC-1138 Boss, RC-1140 Fixer, 1262 Scorch. These were great characters. You were invested in them. It just didn't have Jedi, and that's what people want in a Star Wars game is Jedi. You want to have a lightsaber.
Yeah, so
Mark Ellis.
And then they couldn't deliver. Therefore, that means it's underrated. No, they didn't listen to the consumer. They made a game that they didn't want, and they still outsold my game, which was a game, as you said, with four into it. And the biggest problem was people were getting the game confused with bloody Red Dead Redemption. Very, very similar cover art and that sort of stuff from years earlier. And there was other first-person shooters coming out that people were more interested in, because the thing of it is, if you don't keep telling the public then they don't know. And they had this huge thing where the publicity stopped because of the freaking issues with Ubisoft and all that.
But if you look at the reviews are great on it. If they didn't have publicity,
the reviews, there's 2 points overall. It's 76 versus 78 overall. That's literally different. So if you want to break the entire thing down, just because it's bad doesn't mean it's underrated.
So many people heard about this game from their friends. They're like, I have to play this. Star Wars Republic Commando. Commando. People said, you're not a Jedi Knight. I don't want to do this.
Time. Whoa. Grant, don't forget you got your extra life if you need it. If not, 1 minute on the clock when you start talking.
Your game had a lot going for it, and it didn't lead up to expectations. It had bloody bloody Canadian pop band redo bloody John Williams' score and everything in there, and they made it new, they made it hip. They tried to give the people what they want, but here's the thing: they missed their supply and their demand. The game ended up being bad. It's still sold based purely and simply on the Star Wars name. That doesn't make that game underrated. If this was another game to do with something else, maybe it would. But it was a Star Wars game, and people wanted something from Star Wars, and everyone knows what they wanted, and they didn't deliver. That doesn't. My game, they give the people exactly what they wanted, and they were happy with it. But they didn't know about it. The week that they actually were doing the biggest and the best sales was nearly a month after the game came out, because people didn't get the releases. Because the publicity and everything ceased. That was the problem. You've got a game where it went back to its original roots. It did what people wanted. It didn't sell as good as yours. It's a fantastic game, and yours is Star Wars.
And to close out his comment, yours is Star Wars. Jacob, this is the strength of yours, buddy. 1 minute, unless you want to use your extra life.
Again, mine is Star Wars, so it should have sold, and it didn't. If you look at what people are doing today, though, so many people are clamoring back to Republic Commando just because of how great a game it was. I don't understand where you're getting this fact of the controls were bad, it was sluggish. It wasn't. There is so many people playing it now on Steam, on Xbox Live, on PlayStation Network. It's gained a huge following, especially with the Clone Wars coming out and coming back with Season 7. People are wanting to get back into that Clone Wars lore in Star Wars. Again, very, very mixed reviews. I want to say, yours was like right around 80. 78 out of 100, 5 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 4 out of 5, 8 out of 10, 62 out of 100. Very, very mixed reviews. The biggest complaint? It's Star Wars. You're not a Jedi. What is this?
Time. All right, so we're going to start with Amaru, buddy.
Ooh, this one's a hard one. Both of you had some really good points, and it to me it was going back and forth the whole way. I think in the end I have to give the real slight edge to Grant. The point he made about the Star Wars game selling more was probably the one thing that put me over, because everything else kind of canceled each other out, or kind of you kind of hit each other back and forth with every other point, and I think that's the one that got me the slight edge for Grant.
All right, 1-0 for Grant. We're going to come around the horn to Richard. Richard, buddy, who gets your point? Out. We're having a little technical difficulties. You know how that happens. We play over the internet. We'll just jump over to Bill. Bill, do we got to wait for Richard, or does Grant get this point?
Grant's going to get this point. And the only reason why was, again, it was the same thing of him pointing out that, like, that game sold more. It just did better. It's Star Wars. It's hard to be underrated when you're already Star Wars. Like, it's, yeah. And the fact that his was, like, the fourth in the series. Yeah, it was just, I went that way. So,
all right. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming into question 4 right here in the Game Zone. Yes, below me, we do have a new face in this championship. It would be the Carmel Mountain himself, Ryan Payne. Richard, unfortunately, was having a little, internet issues. And trust me, we play on the internet, so we all know how that goes. Right, gentlemen?
Yeah,
So-
I'm just glad Richard didn't turn into a taller black man. So that'd have been very confusing.
I mean, we both get
Oh,
confused by our hair. So, I mean,
electric one.
I'm not going to touch that one because, everybody loves Matty G. So I'm not going to touch it.
Just remember, Sean and I were arguing about racism a couple days ago. So.
That's true.
glad I didn't for that argument.
That's true, ladies and gentlemen. Last night you did see Grant or not Grant. I'm sorry, Papa West here and the debate god debating racism. A couple of white guys with a couple of with a little bit of diverse judging.
God debating racism. Yeah, that's Sean to a T. Okay.
All right, so let's jump into question 4. This comes in the realm of fighters. We all love a good fight. Maybe some more than others, but it is what it is. And the question is, right? Ask Rihanna and Eminem, we'll find out. No, just kidding. But seriously, what character should be the next to appear in Super Smash Brothers? Jacob, you're first. 90 seconds when you start talking.
Hold on, I'm getting a pep talk from my coach, Little Sean. Thank you, Little Sean. You're the best. Let's do this.
Little Sean did not help you last night, so
No team. This is a bit unfair, isn't it?
He's giving me a pep talk. He's my manager.
but again, Little Sean did not help you last night, did it? So
Shut up.
let's get back into this. 90 seconds when you start talking.
All right. So when you ask yourself who should be the next character to be introduced in Super Smash Bros., you have to ask yourself 2 questions. Does it make sense for this character to be on Super Smash Bros.? And then second, does it make sense for Super Smash Bros. To have this character? So the person that I am picking with makes sense to be in Super Smash Bros. Because he's a character in Nintendo, in the Kirby franchise, which we have seen people in the Kirby franchise in Smash Bros. And it makes sense for him to be in Smash Bros. Because the creator of Smash Bros., Masahiro Sakurai, also creator of Kirby, loves Kirby. Nintendo fans love this character. It's everyone's favorite hamster, everyone's favorite animal buddy. I'm obviously talking about Rick, who should be the next playable character in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
All right. So he's going with the little character, the little guy, comic book lad. Who should be appearing next?
Well, the person that should be appearing next is a character who has a lot of history within games. It's a character who people know, who people like. People who haven't even played the game will know him because, unlike being a side character, he's the front of it. I'm talking about Crash Bandicoot. We're talking about an animated, fun character who has, strangely enough, a very similar moveset that would work perfectly and fit completely within the realm of Super Smash Brothers. We're talking about a character who's existed for many years, who's built up a following, who at one stage was a face of an entire gaming console. So that's the reason why I picked everyone's favorite Bandicoot, Senior Crash.
All right. So we got a hamster and a bandicoot. I'm trying
No
to...
animal cruelty. They're both animals, so technically it's fair. It's nature.
Okay. So we got some animal hate crimes going on here. Peter, do not at me. This was not my choice. Gentlemen, 5 minutes when you start talking.
So, Grant, here's the issue with Crash Bandicoot. He hasn't been in anything recently. He was big when the PlayStation first came out. Again, was one of the faces of the franchise. But then another Blue Little Hedgehog came out. Another face of the PlayStation. Really took over for Sony. They went with him a lot more than they went with Crash Bandicoot. You look at the last thing he was in, it was that small cameo in Uncharted 4. And no one was like, oh my goodness, this is the greatest thing, Crash Bandicoot and Uncharted 4. No, people were like, oh, hey, that's kind of cool. You can play Crash Bandicoot in this game. Oh, whatever, I'm going to get back to the actual game. Here's the reason why Rick makes sense. If you are a diehard Nintendo fan and you have played Kirby, you freaking love Rick. I was watching a Let's Play of a couple playing Kirby Star Allies last year. And as soon as Rick became a playable character, they lost their mind. They're like, oh my goodness, it's Rick. This is amazing. That's exactly what people would have playing Super Smash Bros. And it's announced Rick is the newest character.
Well, add the antidote under facts, and then we'll continue with the argument. You're basically saying that because the people like that. You're saying that because he's from another console that he can't be on there. Wait a minute. I'm sure there's PlayStation characters that are already in the game, so that point is being completely moot. Here's the crux of the argument where you've got everything completely lost. Naughty Dog and Universal Studios no longer have anything to do with the PlayStation Network or Sony. He's a
Nor do they
free
have anything
agent.
to do with Crash Bandicoot.
It can be taken. The character of Crash Bandicoot can be taken, can be introduced into this game, developed within this game. He already fits, and everyone knows Bandicoots are way more dangerous than bloody little badgers or hedge or whatever the hell thing is, unless you're
He's a
into some
hamster.
weird crazy hamster, some sort of sex toy thing. I don't know. Your business is your business. But the point of it is, you've got a character who was the face of a console that can come in, that can now introduce him, and that can put him in any sort of thing. They can own him. He has the ability, and this is the reason. Should comes under the question is should, meaning an obligation or a duty. People want Crash Bandicoot in there. There are literally petitions out showing that people want Crash Bandicoot in this game. Should, obligation or duty.
With
The creators have
2,000
obligation.
signatures. With 2,000 signatures. Show me a petition with hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands. There aren't. No one's really like, oh my goodness, Crash Bandicoot's the best thing out there. We
2,000
need
more
him.
than what you've got for your one. So, I mean, there's a thing out there. People are saying he's a free agent. And the reason why you should is because there's development. You can make more money off this character by introducing him, implementing him in with these other characters. He's a fantastical sort of creature with a spin attacks. He can do everything like that. They can take him and they can move him into any other game. They can take
But
a
who
Nintendo
owns Crash
Switch
Bandicoot?
of Crash Bandicoot.
Grant, quick question for you. Who owns Crash Bandicoot? Because he is not a free agent. A company owns his rights. Do you know who it is?
Doesn't matter who it is. It's the ability. It's the potential. That's the whole point. All I know is there's no ties to Sony. Well, it doesn't matter. The question is not who answered that. You can go harp on that all you want because it's not going to make a difference. What I'm saying is there's the potential for buying because he's no longer linked to Sony.
But he's no longer owned by Activision. Activision owns Crash Bandicoot. They're not going to sell the rights to Crash Bandicoot. So
you
in
don't know
that
what
case,
they're going to do.
instead of having to pay the royalties.
You're saying he's no longer a Sony product. He can be brought in, he can be expanded. The whole point of who should be in there is potential. Crash Bandicoot has that potential. You're talking about
he had that potential 20 years ago.
Okay, an article that came out February 2nd said Crash Bandicoot should be in there from Games Radar. Obviously that doesn't count because that's 20 years ago. That was obviously in 2002. No, you're just basically trying to throw a smoke screen up saying he's not relevant anymore. People are still doing. The petition came up the other week. Why would a petition come up?
2,000 signatures.
Doesn't matter. It's still 2,000 more. No one's clamoring for your little hamster to be in there. People want Crash Bandicoot in there. That's the difference. He has the potential. Yours doesn't.
The reason Rick doesn't have a petition is because people have made a mod to play with him. People are putting him in the game manually to play as him.
Time.
There's plenty of mods.
You cannot take that into account. That was after the time.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
All right.
That'll be my summary when I do my thing. Okay.
Jacob. 60 seconds.
Extra minute.
All right, we are using the extra life, ladies and gentlemen. He hits that button, which makes it 2 minutes. 2 minutes when Jacob starts talking.
Again, Crash Bandicoot is owned by Activision. Activision has a horrible track record of playing with others. So there's potential for Crash Bandicoot if they can buy the rights, which Activision doesn't have many video game rights. They're probably not gonna give up Crash Bandicoot. And again, if this was 20 years ago when Crash Bandicoot was relevant, then maybe there'd be a huge following. Here's the great thing with Rick. Who owns Rick? HAL Laboratories. Who owns HAL Laboratories? Nintendo. So you have the huge diehard Kirby fans. They see you can now play as Rick. They're excited. You have the not big Kirby fans, but still Nintendo fans. Let's face it, Kirby's the most underrated super character in all of Nintendo. It's sad. His games are fantastic. They're like, you have the fans. Who's this new character, Rick? Well, thank God it's not another sword fighter, because we don't need any more of those. But you know what? This guy's kind of cool. Let me play some of those Kirby games that he's in. Guess what? That's more revenue in for Nintendo. They're not having to pay royalties to Activision. It makes sense for him to be in there. It makes sense for Nintendo to put him in there. And you know what? His moveset, he's going to be a big, fluffy tank. We haven't seen a big, fluffy tank. He's going to be a cute tank, not scary. Like King K. Rool. Like, what that dragon? Ridley. He's going to be a cute, fluffy tank. You hold B, he shoots out fire. Side B, he does that rocket smash to the side, turns into a fireball. Down B, he crouches, spikes come out of his back. Again, these are all things he's done in Kirby Dreamland 2, stuff that he has done. And then with the up B, I haven't really thought of that one yet. You know, you could him float like all the other Kirby characters. You could get Ku to throw out there too to lift him up to attack. Final Smash would be something with all the animal buddies. It makes sense to have it in there. It's gonna expand Kirby. People are gonna want to play Kirby after this. It's more money in Nintendo's pocket.
Okay, well then, more money in Nintendo's pocket can't be in, because that was after time.
All right, Grant.
Did y'all hear that before time went out, or because I thought I got that in right at the?
Is
Okay.
Right, if you want to keep it in, keep it in. Fine, we'll keep it in. Keep it in. That's fine.
If y'all don't want to take my one statement, that's fine.
That's fine. So,
all right, Grant. Minute when you start talking.
I'll use my extra life level up, whatever you want to call it.
All right. That's damn right. It's the extra life. This is Game Zone. We play games here. 2 minutes when you start talking.
Activision doesn't work well with others. Wait a minute, Nintendo Switch has Crash Bandicoot, the same trilogy, Team Racing, Nitro Fueled on there. We've got Transformers, we've got Skylanders, we've got Call of Duty. These are all Activision products that Nintendo's already working, that the Activision's already working with Nintendo. So his whole point is being completely moved that it's not going to happen. Crash Bandicoot needs to be the one that's on there because people want it. You have the ability to expand. He's not having any games coming out at the moment. Bring him into Nintendo. So Nintendo is going to take that huge stab at Sony and win the console wars with having this character in there. He already has the move. He already has a move where he can jump and flop and everything. You don't have to change much. He's saying, well, maybe he might be a tank. He might be this. He might be that. You don't need to worry about that. And because they already own this little creature in there, that's the best option. No, that's the easy option. And what you want to do is you want for your next game, you want them to do the easy, safe option. That's not what the game is about. It's about taking big, bold chances and everything. They introduced PlayStation characters in there. And as I already said, Activision already has a good record with already working with them. There are already Crash games that are coming out. You get him in there and you get them to buy him. He owns the whole thing. He could be another face of it because there is a following. Because as he said, the petition that I saw doesn't have tens of thousands and millions of signatures. But you know what? Every single signature that's on there is way more important than the signatures that he doesn't have. And there is mods in there. There's mods to put anyone in anything. That doesn't mean anything. I played a mod of a game where I was a child in the Wild West. That doesn't mean that that's exactly what should happen. So, and because two people on the internet were excited to see one thing, I can find a video of someone being excited about anything. What should happen, and I remember the word is should. It's an obligation or a duty. People want these people right now. You search Crash Bandicoot in there, you'll find article after article after article after article proving that people want this. What should happen? Crash Bandicoot, because he has the potential, he has a future, and if you want to talk about making money, he'll make money. Way more than a fluffy hamster.
Way more than a fucking hamster to close out.
Cute, fluffy hamster.
I didn't say fucking, I said fluffy.
Oh, well, you know what? It's not what it sounded like, but that's okay. I guess
I don't give a fluff.
We'll go down to the man downstairs. Bill, who gets this point?
All right. It's legitimately the hardest argument that we have had today. But going over all of it, I gotta give the point, Jacob. I think it just makes the most sense to have it like another Kirby character. Like people are already clamoring for it. And if they're already trying to put him in the game, then it makes sense to like put him in. So that's just my opinion, and that's who I'm going with. So
All right, 1-0, Jacob. Amaru, do we go to the final question?
Matt, can you give me the question one more time first?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is what character should be the next to appear in Super Smash Brothers?
Okay, so for me, a lot of the conversation about like who owns it and all of that, I think was null and void because it's about who should, not who could. And because of that, at the end of the first round, I had Grant because he started to like talk about why he would fit in the game. But Jacob, you're closing about the actual moves and the ones that have already happened in Kirby, so you know exactly what it's going to look like and how it's going to fit, and the people clamoring for it, as well as you saying that 2,000 people only signed the petition because of that, and for me, getting rid of all of the outside what could work and what couldn't, no, what should work because it would fit. I'm also going to Jacob.
Jacob gets a point. It becomes 2-2. We go to the final question. Ryan, who would have gotten your point and why? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I did have the same sentiments as my judges, but I would have gone the other way with Grant, mainly because Grant was able to rebound a lot of what Jacob brought to him, especially when he repelled the whole thing with the mod that people used to put Rick in the game. He repelled off of the fact that Activision owned the rights. And in his closing, what got me was making bold choices. The fact is, we have a lot of PlayStation. We got like PlayStation characters like Cloud, like Snake in the game as well, other than just Nintendo characters. And at the same time, Crash definitely would make sense, despite the petition and all. The fact the petition is still going is one thing, but the fact that Crash did make sense, the fact that Sonic gets put into Smash Brothers and we don't have Crash yet, felt to me like a big like oversight on the part of Nintendo. So Grant definitely would have gotten my point.
All right. Well, you know what? Sometimes your argument touches the judges, other times it doesn't. What can I say?
Phrasing.
That's debate for you, right, gentlemen? All right. This isn't a strength question. This is a me question. I picked the fifth question, and I threw them kind of a curveball. And it comes in the realm of tabletop games. And it is, what is the most overrated Hasbro board game? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, in the Game Zone, we are now bringing board games. So, Grant, you won the challenge to pick this. You're gonna go first. 90 seconds when I get the timer set. When you start talking.
You think of games when it's most overrated, it comes down to the ability that people keep buying it and playing it and slightly changing it. Both of our games have this ability, where one is way more complex and has a lot more depth. One's so simple that it's mind-boggling to the point where it's almost fraud. Mine is Connect 4. It is essentially a flawed game that just keeps selling and people keep playing it. They introduce it to the kids, elderly. It's a game that has things for all ages. And what it has going for it was one particular thing: poor design, great marketing. That's why it's overrated, because that's what it's about. Time.
All right, closing out early. Jacob, what Hasbro game is overrated in your opinion?
So again, what Hasbro game is most overrated? Hasbro has a funny mentality, or a funny way of taking these games that have sold millions and millions of copies, changing the rules, giving it a special ability, and then reselling the game under a different name. And really ruins the original game. So with that in mind, I picked the original Monopoly. When you think of, hey, playing a board game with the friends, that's one of the first things you think of is playing Monopoly. But let's be honest here. When's the last time you played Monopoly by the rules? There are so many house rules in that game, it's ruined it. Also, when's the last time you actually had fun playing Monopoly? The original Monopoly. Most people, when they play Monopoly, play the Automatic Banker Edition that has extra features in it that make it faster. They've come out with these new special editions. So like there's a Wyoming Monopoly, because I'm a Wyoming guy. Big cities have their own special version. When's the last time you had fun playing original Monopoly with the original rules? Fun fact, it's been forever. Yet it's the most popular board game. I think not.
All right, closing it out with 10 seconds left on the clock. All righty, let me pull up that clock. 5 minutes when somebody starts talking.
So, Grant, I really want to understand how you find this game flawed. It's super easy. It's you and another person putting circles in a game piece. You're trying to connect four. Teaches children numbers, teaches them matching. It's really good. You know what Monopoly teaches you? It teaches you that Uncle Tim's a fucking dick.
You talk about that you don't play by the game rules, so therefore your whole basis of your argument is completely out of the window because you're adding your own spin to it. It's like, okay, well, here you go. This is the reason why this game doesn't work. Well, that's because I put in cheat codes and it wasn't fun anymore. Well, that's on you. If you don't play the game the way it's supposed to be played, that's completely on you. That has nothing to do with it being overrated or anything. You're playing it wrong and judging it according to that one. You talk about they do something and they add something new to it. There's been very small iterations in Connect 4. Most of it, they do color changes. That's one of the huge things that they like to do. Or they put an R2D2 face on something like that. It's a game where if someone is equally as good as the next person, you don't win. Oh shit! I lost my computer. That's how angry it is. My computer's literally throwing itself to pieces over this. You're talking about playing a game wrong and then judging it on that. By the way, I drove my car backwards the other day into a river. And I'm like, why'd you do that? Well, I play by my own rules. Therefore, your car's faulty. No, you're making the distinction that you say no one plays the game like that. That way. That's you. You've made the distinction, and you're the one that chose to do it that way, not the game. Do not blame the game for that.
So, fun fact, when you're playing Monopoly, whenever you land on income tax, whenever you have to pay money for the chance cards, all that, you're putting that in, most of the time you put that in the middle of the board, and if someone lands on free parking, whoever lands on it gets all that money, correct? Have we all played by those rules? That's not an actual rule. That's a house rule that so many people have just added on there, so it's technically a rule now. Not really, because you're not playing it right.
House rule to house rule. House rule to house rule.
But when you can't enjoy the game by playing the actual rules, but when you can't enjoy the game, you can't enjoy the game playing it right. You can't enjoy the game.
So you're saying playing a game that has so many different features and different things you can do is way more satisfying than doing this. Wait. This is the exciting part. There you go. Now I've got two in a row. I mean, your whole argument is you're playing it wrong. And let's be fair about one thing. You did not say in your initial answer the original Monopoly. You said Monopoly. So then if you want to start arguing the original Monopoly, you've got to argue that one. Don't bring in other stuff then. Play the original Monopoly by its rules. Everything that you said about other iterations and they changed in that, it's null and void now because your answer was original Monopoly. That's what you just chose to do.
And that's why the original Monopoly is overrated. You look at lists, the best-selling games, everyone owns Monopoly. You go to someone's house, hey, y'all want to play a game? Sure, what are we going to play? What do you have? Oh, I have Monopoly. I have some cards. Everyone has Monopoly. No one has Connect 4. Last time I played Connect 4, I was 3. Connect 4 is not overrated. It's not even rated. I don't understand how you can say Connect 4 is overrated. When was the last time you went to someone's house? Hey guys, let's play Connect 4.
It keeps doing cops. It's a game that if you're equally as good as someone else, it's a draw. It's a flawed game. game has level, it has depth, it has excitement. It brings families together. It tears them apart. It's freaking exciting. All the hype is real, as you said. F your Uncle Tim or whatever his name was, because you know why? It brought family together. When's the last time someone brought someone together over a freaking Connect
families
4?
apart. And again, Connect 4 is not even rated.
Exciting. That's what I mean. You're saying all the hype is overrated. You ask someone about Monopoly, and they're going to say, "Oh, fucking, I hate that game because it tears family apart." That's the hype now. That's the expectation. You're playing exactly into what it is, and the game's doing exactly what it's doing. And the reason why you're saying you're not enjoying it is because you're putting what you do into everyone else, and saying that everyone plays it wrong, and it doesn't matter what they do or how they play the rules. That's the game's fault. Therefore, it's overrated.
And I'm not saying I'm the only person in the world who hates Monopoly because I play by all these added rules. Everyone plays with those house rules. You can Google Monopoly house rules. It's the same 10 rules. Not everyone's playing the exact same 10, but everyone's playing an iteration of those.
But
I have like 3 of this Monopoly, one. This person has 4 of that one.
On the original rules and the original game. Your words, the original Monopoly, not house rules.
All right, Grant, 1 minute to finish out this debate when you start talking.
Connect 4 is overrated because it's a simple game. That's still in every year in the bestsellers. They'll add a little tiny element where they'll change something about that, and people will play it. You're saying the last time you played it was 4. That's fine. That's your opinion. Not everyone's you, Jake. And I don't know if you've realized that yet. Your house rules for your game aren't the house rules for everyone else. Everyone might play by their own rules, but that's fine. That might be a problem with culture, not the game. You're saying that your game's overrated because of all this sort of thing. The hype is you bring out a Monopoly board, you start having a bit of fun. People get pissed. That's what's expected. That's exactly what the game's doing. Whether you play by the original rules or you play by your bastardized rules and then blame that on the game, that's not the case. Connect 4 has always been basically the exact same things. Get 4 in a row to the point where they considered it a little bit too hard. They added an extra column in there just to add more thing. And you know what? It didn't make a difference. The game is still selling, and it's still the most boring game because all you're doing is doing this versus someone else.
Time. All right, Jacob. Last minute of this match. It starts when you start talking.
I don't understand how you can think Connect 4 is overrated. It's not rated. When you think of Hasbro board games, you think of Monopoly, Clue, Trouble, Sorry. There's a whole list of games. Oh wait, yeah, Connect 4. That's a Hasbro game. No one's like, oh my goodness, Hasbro's the best game ever. I don't understand how you even think it's rated. It's not. Again, Monopoly. When's the last time you had fun playing original Monopoly? The original rules. It's so bastardized. People have added so much to it. They've played the different functionalities. You can't get the same enjoyment that you could, that you get from the others. Yet somehow Monopoly is the best Hasbro board game. Again, I don't think so. Connect 4 can't be overrated. It's not on the list.
Okay. With his silence, I'm guessing he is closing out the round. Like I said, I am glad I'm not judging. But I know Amaro's going to go first and tell us his pick.
Both of you had really good arguments for which game was overrated, but for me, one person was able to not only open and close about why the game was overrated, but combat the others. And for that, to me, the point goes to Grant.
All right. Grant strikes first blood. Ryan, is he the champ or do we go over to Bill?
Oh, God damn it. I should have drank some coffee because you guys have already stressed me out here. Well, I mean, you guys played passionately. Okay, I'm going to cut through all the BS. Look, ultimately, both your openings clarified it. Grant, you said for Connect 4, it had strong marketing. It's a flawed game. What, Jacob, you said Your argument towards Monopoly was regarding the original, as you said, was regarding the rules, restrictions, and how it might question the capability of being fun. So I focused on those two throughout your entire arguments and your closing. Ultimately, when Grant threw out the hit that Monopoly was more on the fault of the player, not mainly of the game, that did take up a huge portion of the argument to where I didn't get enough time to hear a lot of attacks on Connect 4. With that being said, Grant's got my point.
And your champion of the Game Zone title is the comic book lad himself, Grant. Just quick side note, Bill, who would have gotten your point and why, real quick?
I hate my car because it went into a river because I was driving it backwards. It's one of the funniest shits I've heard all week. I would have went Grant 100%. I'm sorry. That was like way too good. It's not the game's fault that you hate it. Whereas Connect 4 can suck my balls. So, yeah. I would have went Grant. Yeah. No, 100%.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
God.
That was way too good.
Those fucking analogies.
Was very good. All right, competitors, I'm going to drop you out really quickly, and I'm going to have a little conversation with our judges, and we will be right back. So, guys, last minute thoughts.
That was a battle. That was a battle. I think for me, there was one round that was runaway. And it was one of the earlier rounds that went to Grant, but everything after that was extremely close. And I think it'd have been one argument one way or another. If one would have said one other thing or one would have not said one other thing, it could have swung either way.
I wholeheartedly agree. Ryan, you only jumped in for 2 rounds. What did you think?
Well, yeah, someone who is a late judge here. Even the 2 questions I came in, these guys were intense the entire time. Honestly, the Smash Bros. Question, it was going back and forth constantly, but Grant's line on the bold choices for Smash Bros. Was sold me. And for the board games, if Jacob had, he did really good. He put out some great points on the whole, the whole idea of Monopoly being a fun game, the original one. If he had spent more time talking about how if he had focused on some of the other adapted versions, like the other different versions of Monopoly, like there's a Star Wars Monopoly, there's like a video game version of Monopoly. I know there's an anime version of Monopoly. If he had said that there were so many more different versions of Monopoly, that the original one was not just overrated, but almost to the point to where it could have been like completely forgotten at times, because I've been to Toys R Us's. I've seen the more different versions of Monopoly games in the original one. And at the same time, I think it was because they were focusing so much on Monopoly that even though Jacob did attack Connect 4 in his closing, I only had my note that he had maybe 1 or 2 hits on it that Grant easily was able to overpower it by going back on Monopoly with his analogies.
Right. I like I said, I'm glad I didn't judge. Bill, final thoughts real quick.
This was a lot of fun just watching these 2 go at. I probably could have watched them go 3 more rounds. Like, honestly, it was completely down the middle, like all the way. Like, at no point was I was just like, oh, this is gonna just get like worse for one person. But it was like a pendulum going back and forth. Like, every time one of them had a good argument, one of them had a counter. Like, you couldn't ask for a better match, honestly. I'm sorry. So.
Oh no, I completely agree. Bill, you want to plug yourself on the internet? Where can people find you?
So it's usually Philadelphia, PA, anywhere. I have pretty much because someone's sitting on my Ghostface Billa nickname, so I can't take that back. But I'm gonna get it one day. That guy's gonna go to sleep, and he's gonna be sleeping on it, and it'll be fine. So not really much else going on. I do have Team Smash that I'll be recording soon. I'm sure that'll drop with me and my teammate in Iron Eagles, Big Sal, Nick Carley. So that'll be fun. Keep an eye out for that one. And other than that, I don't know. I work a lot and I should sleep more. So
Don't we all? Amaro, buddy, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me looking for Amaru Moses, AMARU and Moses, but that's my personal account. I do have a YouTube channel, do some reviews. I do what I did a reaction to the bat suit reveal, which I personally think is funny as hell. My YouTube channel is Yuri Reviews, URIRU Views. Again, reactions, talk about movies, starting a podcast with one of my friends about music. And on Twitter as well, Ruviews, RUVIEWS, Facebook as well. Yeah, catch me all over the place.
Right on, homie. Mr. Carmel Mountain, where can people find you?
Well, right now, people can definitely look for me on TMG, judging, hosting, hopefully getting myself back in again to play. But at the meantime, I'm going to reactivate one of my Letterboxd accounts. So people can be on the lookout for my reviews of certain movies. But right now, a goal I'm going to do on Letterboxd is I'm going to start going back on every season of Arrow, looking at all the past episodes, and then hopefully I'm going to look for a partner to do like a Arrow podcast. Really go back on the seasons and start giving our own like opinions or just like a good deconstruction of episodes or seasons and see like really do a good retrospective look on Arrow, the series itself, and see its real highs and lows. So right now the Letterboxd account's going to come up, and then it's going to be the review of the episodes. And then hopefully maybe by next month we'll get the podcast up and running.
Right on. All right, gentlemen. I'm going to slide y'all aside, and I'm going to pull up our runner-up. That would be Papa Wet. Oh, God.
I'm not going to let you talk to Jacob. He's back in the dungeon. He's got to work on some stuff, so you can talk to me. No, get out of here, little Sean. Shut up. I'm sorry about that. I have to control him sometimes. He has a mind of his own. Thinking he's a debate god, but
I don't really know how to talk about that. That's a conversation for another Saturday. You talk to your best friend's a cutout of somebody that beat you last night. That's a conversation for a different Saturday.
the wound was still fresh, Matt.
Gotta add a little.
Jerk.
No, buddy. Honestly, you're my boy.
Take that banner down, though. Take that banner down.
I'm sorry. I actually
fine.
thought I did. But when I switched over and looked at something else, I left it up. But honestly, Bud, you played a hell of a game. Like I said, I'm glad I wasn't judging because I was literally down the middle every time. Wanted to play in that. And the winner of that will be playing Ruben for the number one contender. So, you may have lost, but your path to gold isn't quite gone yet.
That was fantastic. Amara was right. There was only one where it was obviously he won it. And that was the second question. And it was literally like first minute of that argument, everything he was bringing up, like, I should start talking because he's going to win this. And I didn't start talking. And he kept bringing it. I'm like, I'm going to lose this point. Okay, let's just go on to the third one. It's exactly what happened in my sports brawl match. I was up, I took a step back, and I let him climb back. In my stomach that was opened up last night, and I was hoping to fill it up tonight, but it just got bigger. But see, the secret is maybe I blew those matches so that I can keep competing and keep taking on these people and keep making it to the championship, and it'll have like a little Rocky story. You like Rocky?
I do, and I'm glad you know that. Rocky is one of my favorite. I actually watched Creed 2 today.
Nice.
But no, on all honesty, you're my boy. I'm always gonna root for you. I don't really know what else to say, but you guys had a hell of a debate, and I can't wait to see what comes up next.
I have something. I have something to say for you, and this is to the Game Zone League. Have fun being in second place, because there's this tournament that I'm going to be in that I'm going to win. If you come up against me, just sit down. Grant, I'm coming back for that championship belt. I'm going to get that belt. Sean, I'm coming for that belt. That sports brawl belt. Everyone in the sports brawl league, sit your ass down. You have no chance of taking me down. I am coming for those belts.
We have the comic book lad, who looks damn exhausted. I guess I could, stroke your ego a little bit more. What do you think?
I think it's all right. Before I think, a little bit of housekeeping needs to happen. I need to apologize for the way that I acted after round 4. After my closing, I had convinced myself that was it. Until I see it again, I won't know whether I was being a complete dick or if I had any merit to it. But I apologize for the way that I acted. It means a lot. In all the different leagues and everything, I'm 10-0 now when it comes to debates. I've had a forfeit one when some family issues came up, but ones that I've actually played. I've said it before. It's like being beat up underwater. I can't know how else to describe it. I'm soaking. I'm shaking. It's not fun, but it's the best time of my life. It's a way that I can describe it. I'm humbled by everyone that I've faced, and I've had a couple of trivia titles, but this means more. It's just so much harder to when you like with trivia. If you know it, you know it, and you're right. In this one, you might have the right answer, but you might say the wrong word, or they might say the right word at the right time, and it makes all the difference. But yeah, it's humbling, and I just can't believe I'm a champion. From a few months ago when I pretty much gave up trivia and thought, well, I'll give this a bit of a try and see how it goes, to going on a bit of a run and getting here. I think the person I was surprised the most was myself. So thank you, Jacob, and everyone. And he's right. I don't want Jacob to win. I don't want to face him again. That was grueling. He's a good. I don't know who else is going to end it, but he's got a good chance. He's got a really bloody good chance, which is the reason why these bags are getting bigger just talking about it. But yeah, thank you to everything you've done since you've taken over the league. You've not dissing on anyone else, but I think it's improved. It's in the right direction now, and I'm extremely excited for the future. Bummed that I don't get to do matches as often now, but excited.
Well, you never know. I've had some thoughts about that. It may not be, championship matches right away, but I definitely have some ideas of stuff you can do. Because once the tournament starts, you kind of sit there and you wait for them to go rounds. But honestly, what happened between round 4 and 5 happened. Being the champion, I appreciate the fact that you spoke your mind. Because we can't grow if things that need to be brought up are going to be brought up. So bear with me. I completely understand. Like I've said countless times, I am so glad I did not judge this match. Because the two of you are buds of mine. I don't know how I could have fairly judged it because, like I said, you both are buds of mine, and I would have been like, I don't know. So that's why I brought in 4 judges this time. because thanks to Ryan for the save. With that, I am Matty G. You can find me Facebook at Matt Graham. You can find me here on TMG, where you've got Suplex City chats coming every Thursday. We've got After Dark coming every Saturday night. That's going to be a little different than normal. I'm going to start having guests come on. We're going to do more of an interview-based show, kind of a SEN sort of. We're going to sit around and shoot the shit, but yeah, if you check it out, when this drops, we have had the first episode of After Dark 2.0, where we had the cast and crew of Social on. So give that a like. Head over to Amazon, give that a thumbs up. Hit their YouTube page, give that a thumbs up. Everybody, this has been Night 2 of Debate Kingdom, right here on TMG, where we are the heart of debate.